What up? And thank you for tuning in to the Skol State of Mind podcast. As you already know, I'm your host, D Woods. And if you haven't already, please hit that notification bell, hit the like button, hit the share button. I really appreciate it. And for everybody out there that's been rocking with me on all social media platforms, I appreciate it. If it's good comments, bad comments, or indifferent, I appreciate it because that's the engagement that I like, and that's the engagement that actually keeps me going. But with that being said, let's get into my initial thoughts on the Vikings versus the Bears. Well, it took me a minute to do this video because after the game, I was still on a high and I just couldn't get it together to actually do my reaction video directly after the game. So I'm going to do it right now, and I think y'all want to hear my point of view on how this game actually went. Now, beginning of this game, I would say that it was like a boxing match. I would say both teams were basically trying to figure each other out, seeing what they can do, what they can get away with, stuff like that. But one thing that kind of annoyed me early in the game is I felt that Caleb Williams was getting his way with Brian Flores' defense. And when I say getting his way, they were getting third downs converted. He was running out the pocket, finding people downfield, just basically making plays. I really wanted the Brian Flores defense to come in here and just dominate. And it started to set in my head that, damn, maybe Brian Flores cannot beat an offensive-led Ben Johnson team. And I'm not even going to lie to you. That set in my head for a minute throughout this game, especially as the game went on when our offense wasn't giving us anything. And if you know football, and a lot of you do know football, good teams play complementary football. And I'm going to break it down to some people that don't know what that means. Complementary football is when all three facets of your team is playing together as a cohesive unit. Now, the defense is the defense, going 3 and outs and they not having long drives. That's good. It's the offense, creating long drives and they're not going 3 and out, and actually putting the defense right back on the field. And I think that was some of the main problems that was hindering the Vikings early in this game. It seems like the offense could never get started. Like the offense it was like stuck in first gear. Like you can kind of see some flashes and you'll be like, oh, okay. And then next thing you know, it's a sack or a penalty. And the offense just wasn't clicking. I don't know what it was, but I hope we don't see this type of offense from our Vikings again this season. It just didn't look so good, but eventually the offense woke up. And as you know, the Vikings came out to win this game. But let's go back to halftime, a couple of possessions before halftime, right? When the Vikings got the ball and McCarthy zipped it down to Jalen Naylor for like 30 yards, and they brought Will Rocket out there to kick that 59-yard field goal. Initially, I'm like, let's not do this. Let's not do this. Let's not try to kick a 60-yard field goal just for 3 points. Let's just go in the locker room and see what we can do and regroup. But he actually made it. Will Riker actually hit a 59-yard field goal in Chicago at Soldier Field. I think that helped change the momentum during the game, and I think they went to the locker room knowing that, hey, if we stop kicking ourselves in the foot and doing what we've been doing on offense, our defense has been playing solid. Let's regroup and let's come out here and show this team what we got. And they did it. So let's talk about the offense for a little bit. Let's talk about this, right? So with the offense, you guys already know I'm a little critical of Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, because they are prospective coordinators and they lead their prospective groups. I didn't know what the hell was going on with this offense. Like they couldn't really run the ball efficiently. All the pass plays that they were dropping back was like too short. Like the timing was off. It wasn't really going down the field. Like it just kind of felt like Kevin O'Connell was like started this game way, way too conservative. And I think when the game started to get away, he had to get away from being conservative and actually be aggressive to get the team, back into this game. And one of the good things that I can say I can get from this game is our Vikings team went through a lot of adversity in this first game, and it kind of showed what this team can actually do through that adversity and what this team was actually made of. And like I said, with complementary football, even though the offense was not moving the ball as they should, the defense kind of kept this team in the game. And I give my hats off to Brian Flores for that. Even though I had my doubts, and I was thinking like, man, eventually Caleb gonna blow it up and stuff like that. But if you really analyze the game and you really sit back and you think about it, like Flores has basically kept everything in front of us. Like it wasn't no deep shots that we gave up. It was everything in front of it. A lot of times Caleb Williams made big plays off of scrambling. And that's how it happens sometimes. But the offense, man, the offense has to get better. We always talk about it. Me and my boy Zoe and Mike, we always talk about how KevinOConnell offenses have these disappearing acts where basically, they're good the first quarter doing scripted plays and they disappear in the third and fourth quarter, and then the team has to rally back to actually, try to win. I would say the offense was not good for the first, second, and third quarter. Now, the fourth quarter is something different. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But those are my initial thoughts on the offense. Basically, I'm calling it inside the offense. I'm not going to go through, all the offensive statistics right now because we're going to do that when we get to the top performances, and I'll probably break it down on who I really felt was the top performances. All right. So defense, right? Just like I said before, when I was talking about the offense, the defense did their job. They actually kept Caleb Williams and their offense at bay. They only gave up 17 points throughout this game. Initially until at the end of the game when they got the touchdown to Roman Tuesday, and that kind of kept the game in hands. It kept the game basically to where all the Vikings had to do was get a touchdown to get back in this game. And I give the defense a lot of credit for actually doing that. And Brian Flores, it wasn't like one of these games to where you saw a lot of sacks from Gennard and, you saw like an interception, stuff like that. This defense just played honest. I like what I saw from defense interior. Hargrave had two sacks today. I mean, it was a good effort, but I was just a little bit worried, and I kept saying this to people, on the live, that eventually this defense is going to crack because with the offense not giving us anything, the defense was actually playing a whole lot during this game. You can look at the time of possession and you can see that our defense was on the field a lot, and that's dangerous because eventually defenses get tired, and next thing you know, you have a crack in the dam and all hell breaks loose. I was just basically afraid of that. But that's enough on the defense. And let's get to special teams. Miles Price, right? Miles Price had a heck of a game as a punt returner and a kick returner. And I have to give a shout out to Ty Chandler also at the end of the game, running it out of the end zone and just burning a little bit of that clock and getting that 2-minute warning as fast as possible. But to get back to Miles Price, initially during the offseason, that was a position of need after the Rondale Moore injury, and maybe we got something in Miles Price. Maybe we got something to where we can solidify the punt return and kick return duties because he did a hell of a job. And sometimes that's what you need, as an offense. The offense is waiting to get on the field. Is you see special teams had that pop, and he was giving that pop, and is much appreciated. But the kicking wise, when I say like field goals and PATs, Will Riker didn't miss anything. But on the downside, man, Ryan Wright, I don't know what's going on with this guy. He had one punt that was only like 20 yards or something like that. I mean, I will say his punting struggles is starting to become a problem, but it's a punter. You can always bring somebody in through the practice squad for some tryouts. I wouldn't be surprised if by Wednesday the Vikings have somebody in the facility, kicking punts just as a competition to show Ryan Wright, like, hey, get your shit together. But let's talk about top performers, right? Let's talk about the top performers. Okay. Top performers on offense. I'm going to give you three. I'm going to give you three. All right. JJ McCarthy, of course. Jordan Mason, of course. And Aaron Jones. I'm not going to give Justin Jefferson this one right now, even though he had the touchdown. But that touchdown scored by Aaron Jones, that shit was nice. That shit was nice. I would say on offense, those are my top three performers. So here's the stats for them on offense. You had JJ McCarthy go 13 for 20 for 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he ran one in for a touchdown. So that was a good performance in the fourth quarter, because we ain't gonna talk about the first 3 quarters with JJ McCarthy. The fourth quarter. Now, Jordan Mason, 15 carries, 68 yards, with the longest one being of 19 yards. I like to see that. All right. Even though Aaron Jones had 8 carries for 23, I would say Aaron Jones made a great play down the stretch when he caught that touchdown, and he caught 3 passes for 44 yards with 1 touchdown. Man, I'll give it to those three. And to go back to the offense, do y'all remember when the New York Giants had Ron Dane and Tiki Barber, right? They was quote unquote called Thunder and Lightning. I think we might have that 2.0. I would love to see Mason get majority of the carries, especially early in the game, because his running style is a style that's going to beat up the defense. And if he can do that, he's going to make the defense a little softer for Aaron Jones to just get his cuts, go down the field, and do what he does best. I think this Minnesota Vikings team has a great pairing in Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. I love it. Y'all know how I love the running backs. I love it. I think with Jordan Mason on this team, if you actually get a lead, you can lean in on Jordan Mason and just bleed the clock. That's something that we haven't had in a Kevin O'Connell offense. And what I did notice with Kevin O'Connell during this game, he never got away from the run, and the run game kind of got us back into this game. All right. So that's my top performers on the offensive side of the ball. Defense side of the ball, I'm gonna give you 2. All right, I'm gonna give you 2. I'm gonna give you Javon Hargrave with his 2 sacks, and I'm gonna give you Eric Wilson. And Eric Wilson, for him to come in after an injured Blake Cashman, actually play defensive snaps, and then go out there and play special team snaps and actually get his hand on a block punt, that's tremendous. But when we go back and we talk about Javon Hargrave, this is what we wanted, Viking fans. We wanted some interior D-line push, and I think we got it. This is the game that Hargrave is going to get his 2 sacks, but I'm thinking Hargrave and Allen is going to be a problem this year. Now, them are my 2 on defense, so let's keep it rolling. Now, injury-wise, now, I just heard this not too long ago, but Jeff Okudah injured on the last play of game, had a concussion. We don't know how severe that's going to be, but it's only Tuesday, so let's wait and see how that shakes out. But on bigger news, on the defensive side of the ball with the injuries, Blake Cashman might miss some time with a hamstring injury. So it's going to be kind of, interesting to see how Brian Flores kind of tailors that over. Is he going to just put Eric Wilson in the middle with Ivan Pace and go from there? Or is he going to rotate Eric Wilson with Van Ginkel in the middle and kind of bring Dallas Turner on the outside to give him some extra snaps? But that's those 2 things, 2 different defensive players on defense. But from the offensive side of the ball, we know Darius Hall didn't play this game, but it was actually a smart thing, I would say, on the Vikings, because the field was shit and you wouldn't want to risk injury. So hopefully we can see Christian Darius Hall in the home opener this week against the Atlanta Falcons, especially because I won't be there, be in the building. But that is my injury report for the game. Now, let's get over here to overreactions. All right. There's not a lot of overreactions that I have because I feel like the game kind of like solidified itself with, with a win. But um let's not overreact so much on defensive snaps for Dallas Turner. I gotta say that early. Let's not overreact on the offensive side of the ball for it not being, a well-oiled machine and not moving efficiently. Let's put these couple of overreactions to the backside for maybe a couple of weeks and then revisit it. So that's kind of the reason why I can't really say have too many overreactions right now because it's still kind of early in the season. I normally do areas of concern, but I think some of the concern, if it's not the injuries, I think some of the stuff is like gonna kind of work itself out. I mean, Justin School had an up and down game. I would call it a bad game at the end of the day, but he's not going to be the starting left tackle. Darisaw might play on Sunday, and that might solidify itself. I think the faster Darisaw plays, the faster we're going to be able to see what we really have as a cohesive unit for all five starting guys to, you know, contribute on that offensive line. On a defense, if Jeff Okudah cannot play on Sunday, that puts us in a bad position because initially the Vikings 53 man roster only had 4 corners. So now we only have 3. Maybe they're going to elevate somebody from the practice squad, or maybe they're going to go out and just go ahead and say, hey, we're cutting a little too close and we can't go too farther in the season with only 4 corners, and maybe get somebody that's a solidified starter to come in and actually add some kind of depth. But those are just basically concerns. But I'm thinking about this right now. I forgot to say it. I got to go back to a top performer on offense, and I got to give it to the rookie, Donovan Jackson. No quarterback hurries, no sacks, no pressures. As a rookie, that's a hell of a game. And going to this game, we talked a lot about JJ McCarthy having his first NFL start, and it kind of overshadowed Donovan Jackson's first NFL start. I mean, it should because it's a quarterback versus the guard, but guard is a position, that the Vikings have been looking to get somebody there and be solid for some time. And I know it's early, but maybe they have somebody like Donovan Jackson that's going to be with this team for the next, 7 to 10 years. I think he only can, in time, he can only get better, but I just have to give Donovan Jackson a shout out as a top performer. Now, looking forward, the Vikings will have their home opener on Sunday Night Football, another game where the lights are going to be bright in Minnesota. I will give y'all my pregame prediction, what I think should happen, what should go later. I'm going to be dropping this video real soon. I'm going to just get on it and schedule it and get it out to y'all. And I'm probably going to go live later on today with the Chicago Bears podcast, the same couple of fellas that I went live with Sunday. So it's going to be interesting because I want to see how they're going to react now that their team, kind of choked it off. But that's all I got for y'all. And back to say it again, though, thank you guys and everybody out there for rocking with me and, keeping the comments up and liking the video, sharing it, all to the new subscribers out there. I'm finally getting my momentum. I'm finally getting my feet wet and actually being a whole lot consistent. So y'all know how I end every video. Skol, baby.